When I was a school superintendent, I did my best to give control to the teachers without giving it up. And here's one technique I used. I went to the teachers at the first meeting of the year, and I said, I want you to tell me what you expect of me as your superintendent. Here's 3 3x5 cards. Write one thing, expectation, on each card. And they did. I got them, and I sorted them into common piles, and I paraphrased what was in each pile. And I sent, next meeting, I told them what they expected, and I told them I was going to do my best to meet their expectations. I gave the teachers control with that technique. I did not give it up. And I told them that I was there as their leader to work for them. I was there to serve their needs. And I was listening to them. I trusted them. I was open with them. And that was how I started the relationship. And then I went to the teachers and I said, look, if you feel comfortable with this technique, go back to your students and do the same thing. Give them 3 3x5 cards and say, what do you expect of me as your teacher? And use the same technique that I've used with you. You want the kids to know that you trust them, that you care about them, you're listening to them, and you want a good relationship with them, and you are there as a servant leader. That's the theme throughout both books, servant leadership. So that was one way of giving control without giving it up. Does that make any sense to you, Wynn?
Yes, that does. And I think I'm going to have my third graders use that technique because what they expect out of me, because it puts them in control, but yet puts me in control.
Right. Yeah, you give control to people with that technique and don't give it up. The second thing I ask the teachers to do, now don't put your list of rules up on the board, okay? Go to the kids and say, what rules do you want me to enforce in this classroom? Are we still recording?
Yes.
Okay. So we use the same technique. So the kids fill out 3 3x5 cards with the rules. And don't you know the rules that they give the teacher are almost always the same as the ones the teacher would put up on the wall? But when the teacher sorts them into a common pile, and what happened?
Yep. Nothing happened.
Okay. And puts them up there. If there is a rule the teacher wants that the kids didn't put in, and the most common one is turn your homework in on time, you just put it in there, and they don't know that you put it in. But when the rules go up, the kids look at the rules and they say, oh, there's the one I wrote. And it's going all around the classroom. You hear the kids saying, I wrote that rule, I wrote that rule, I wrote that rule. And don't you know? Now, when a rule is broken, whose rules are they breaking?
Their own.
Their own.
I see what you're saying.
You're giving control to the students without giving it up. As a matter of fact, you now have more control than you ever had because you are working for the kids, you're enforcing their rules, and many times as a teacher, and I've seen it happen, when a kid violates a rule, the teacher says somebody's violating rule number 4. Kids look up at rule number 4, and they look at the kid who's violating rule number 4. Guess what? That kid's going to stop immediately, because all eyes are on that kid. And it's amazing. When you give control to the kids and involve them in setting the rules and in setting the expectations in the classroom, it is amazing because in today's classroom, when a teacher walks into that classroom, they've got Latinos, they've got blacks, they've got whites, they've got poor, they've got rich, they've got Orientals, and on with the mix that's in that classroom. What do all those different cultures where those kids come from, what do they expect of the teacher? The teacher has no clue. But by running that, what do you expect of me as the teacher finds out and establishes a relationship of it's us together. I'm working for you. We're in a cooperative environment. I need you kids to help me. And it just changes the whole school culture and climate. So That is one way of giving control without giving it up. And then you come to the fourth need that's not being met in most classrooms, and that's caring. Many kids come to school believing the teacher doesn't care, believing the other kids don't care. They may even come from a home environment where they question whether mom cares because she may be divorced and working 2 jobs. So kids' caring needs aren't being met. And then you come to the big one, purpose. How many kids go to school with purpose? Not many. The ones who are high flyers, the A students who are working to get into college and to be top of the class, or the best athletes, they come to school with a purpose. But 50% of the kids come to school for one reason. It's the law. They have no purpose other than that. They believe teachers don't care. They have no control. They're not happy. And they may be high anxiety, stressed out, fear of bullying. How's that kid going to learn? The motivation's just not there. So that's a major reason for low test scores, the 5 basic needs. Then you come to the way power is used. When there are 9 forms of power, the 3 that are most commonly used are position, reward, and coercion. The teacher has to position. If the kids don't do what they're told, they get punished or they don't get a reward. And the 5 freeing forms of power are not being used as much as they ought to be. One of the freeing forms, that's chapter 4 in book 1, is personality power. If a teacher gets the kids to like them, they've got half the battle won. And when you ask them, tell me what you expect and what rules you want me to enforce, the kids tend to like that teacher. So the relationship has been started. How does that sound?
Well, that sounds wonderful to me. Now, I have a question for you.
Sure.
What happens when you have a special needs kid? Do you give them power or do you give them choices? Because I am special needs myself, so I figured that you would give them choices over giving them power and control.
Well, when you give them choices, you give them control. Because you're asking them to, do you want to do this or do that? And if they make the wrong choice, you take control back and you say, well, no, that's a choice I can't accept. So let's try this again. And you give them another choice until they make the right choice. But when you have students with disabilities, giving them control is the only way to get them to become more mature. They have to learn to make the right decision. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Now,
and go ahead.
I was going to say, as we end this interview, I'll let you finish your last thought, but where can people find you?
Well, they can just put my name in on the web and they'll find me all over the place. But the website is www.westga.edu/tilde, that tilde squiggly up in the corner, and C. Bulach. And Lynn, if you would get on that site and look it up for yourself and then put it out to your viewers so they know what it is. Everything on that site is free. I don't charge for anything. I'm retired. I'm giving back. I don't charge for my services. So anybody that wants me to come, I don't charge for it. Did that come through okay for you?
That came through perfectly fine, and we have your information. We'll put it in the show notes. And what you have done for me today in this short interview is saved the next 3 years of teaching for me, because I didn't know that kids hated to go to school. We're trying to create a loving and supportive culture. I didn't know that we were creating up until today, okay culture, and then putting test scores on top of it. No wonder why the kids are going low.
They're not motivated. Until you motivate them, they won't learn.
They're not motivated, no.
Yeah. And
yeah,
if you're meeting their needs, they will be motivated.
Until you motivate them, they won't learn.
Right. So how much time do we have left?
We have a couple minutes left, but I want you to continue your last thought, and then I want you to ask me a couple questions.
Okay. Where do you see yourself going with your career, Wynn? How long have you had this show now?
I've had this show in various different formats. I've had this show for the past 4 years in various different formats, but I see myself exiting, and my public fan base knows this, my family knows this, I see myself exiting the education field and becoming a freelance writer and working on, I'm actually going back to school, believe it or not, for fashion journalism. And so I can help the disabled that way, because I feel like the culture of education is changing, but it's changing slowly but surely. And when stuff hits the fan, I don't want to be involved with the educational culture. The next move Betsy DeVos makes, I don't want to be involved with. Let's just put it that way, because
the
U.S. culture.
You are really concerned with. You're really concerned with bullying behavior, then, too, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I'm really concerned with bullying behavior. Yes, I am, and I'm really concerned with lack of motivation. It even concerns me more today since talking to you than it ever has, and I'm really concerned with low test scores. So the next move Betsy DeVos pulls, I do not want to be involved. So I'm slowly but surely walking away from education in the next 3 years, because I think that teachers should be motivated, but we can't be due to, I know this to be in the eyes that I'm walking away, but if you truly understood what went on in the education system, which I know you do, but I think we can give the kids control so much, but we can't necessarily give them free reign of the roost. And so when the U.S. pulls the next moves, I don't want to be involved in the education field.
Well, that's a pity. I hate to see you leave the field. You probably got a lot to offer.
Yes, I do. But if I could, if I wasn't in preschool for 11 years, I would have a bigger, vast picture of it. And plus, if I wasn't emotionally abused in the workplace and basically not thought of as an equal in my first 2 years of teaching, I would probably still be in the first 2 years of teaching. And my family knows what happened. It's public knowledge what happened.
So your 5 basic needs were not being met as a teacher? No,
my five basic needs, no, exactly. My 5 basic needs were not being met.
And you're not the only teacher. Many teachers' basic needs are not being met. And they are not
being loved. I was not being loved in the public school setting. Mm-hmm. Nope. No way, no how. No way, no how.
Well, that has to change. And that's why I have written those two books, because if anybody puts that school culture and climate in place, teachers' needs will be met. Kids' needs will be met. Motivation will occur. And, what I saw in the 50-some school districts in the state of West Virginia and interviewing all those teachers and all those kids was just mind-boggling to me. It was an experience that I would have paid somebody money to let me do. And instead I got a nice contract out of that, and the books came out of that. So I have been very blessed with my career, and I'm going to keep trucking until I meet my maker.
Yeah. And I didn't want to ask you this during the interview, but I'll ask you this now, and this will tie up the interview with this. How do you feel about the paycheck of teachers? The paycheck of teachers isn't very strong. That's why, do you think it has something to do with the climate and culture in education?
Well, it's been thought for years that teachers are underpaid, and they are. It's still one of life's greatest professions. I mean, I had to go into administration because my wife didn't work to feed my family with 4 kids. But gosh, I have had a tremendous career, and I've loved every minute of it. What a lot of people don't think about is when you've got your 30 years in most states, you've got a retirement and insurance for life. And up until I retired, I was struggling financially, but the minute I retired and got that monthly paycheck and had my insurance paid, I went and got another job, and the next thing I knew, I've had more money than I ever thought I'd ever have. So the big reward for being a teacher is 30 years and out. Now, hopefully you don't become a teacher so you do it for that reason, but many teachers forget about the retirement money that's put into their account in that state for 30 years, and after 30 years, they've got roughly a couple of $1 million saved. That's there to be tapped for.
Unfortunately, music teachers and aides don't get paid over the summer, and I can't get a retirement fund out of my school, unfortunately, because I am a teacher's aide. I need to put in more hours than I am allotted.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
And
yeah,
so,
if you're a teacher, if you don't put the right hours in, you're right.
No,
of course, if you're a teacher listeners.
HR about this.
What was that?
I talked to my human resources office about this at my work. I said, can you pay me over the summer for the next 3 years? And they go, because our faculty needs to be paid in a timely manner, and because you're aide / music teacher, you can't. So,
no.
And that just made me sad and made me angry.
Well, when you get your paycheck, is money taken out for your retirement?
Is money taken out for my retirement?
Yes.
I don't believe so.
And you work in Texas?
I work in Colorado at a
Colorado
school. Colorado.
Well, almost all employees who work for the state, and a school system is the state, there is roughly 8% taken out of every paycheck for your retirement. And then they take... Even
if it's a private school?
Yeah. No, not if it's private.
See, I'm working private.
Okay, it's got to be a public school.
I'm working private. It's not public school. I wasn't paid. I wasn't paid at the time. I was working public school. I did that voluntarily.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, yeah.
by the time I left my public school career in 2009, I've actually had 3 careers in my life, and I'm only 30 years old. By the time I left my public school career in 2009, I wasn't receiving a paycheck, but now I am.
Yeah. Okay, so you taught in public schools for how many years?
I taught from 2006 to 2009.
Well, you've got money in that retirement account. Did you take it out?
No, I don't think they could give me access to it because I wasn't being paid at the time. It was volunteer.
Oh, you were a volunteer.
I wasn't being paid at the time, no.
Okay.
They didn't want to pay me. They didn't want to pay me. That's just, they didn't want to pay me when I asked for a paycheck, and a lot of people don't know this, but I'm admitting it publicly today. They just laughed at me.
Well, I'm a farm boy from Indiana, and we have a phrase there, and it goes like this. It sounds like you had a hard row to hoe.
Oh, yeah, you're not kidding. You're not kidding when you say that. Yeah, you're not kidding when you say that. And my teacher who I worked under didn't want to pay me. I thought that when my school actually got audited, and I had to fight through that one and almost left in that situation. And so, yeah, it's been interesting. It's been an interesting road for me in teaching, and it's always an interesting road for all teachers out there. And as you said, we think it's a pity that when good teachers leave the field, but it's not easy. It's not easy living in an area that you can't afford.
No, you're right.
And that's a whole another podcast in itself. And I have a colleague, I'm actually moving back to Oklahoma to pursue her second degree in speech pathology, believe it or not, because she couldn't afford to live up here. And she's musically trained and classically trained in music, and she couldn't afford to live up here. So with the paycheck, it's really hard to be functioning with a disability, and that's why I'm slowly but surely walking away from the field. And I wish that teachers had all their needs met, but unfortunately they don't. And certainly it's champions like you that step into the classroom, explain to us what's going on, and I am just grateful that you came on my show today and gratefully explained to me, despite technology issues, what's going on in these classrooms and how we can make it better. And I appreciate your time, and I hope you guys enjoyed another fabulous episode. And let's do this again. Let's do this again soon.
Hey, anytime you need me for a guest, give me a call back. Get on my website and see what you think. Good luck to you.
I will.
You're a youngster.
Thank you.
You're 30 years old. You've got your life ahead of you.
Well, I've already had 2 careers in teaching, and I plan to walk away. But I thank you for coming on, and I hope you guys enjoyed this 2-part episode.
I did.
On the education aspects, and I hope we can do it again soon.
Okay. Thank you. You take care, Wynn.
Hello? Hello? When? Hello?
The host has joined the conference.
Hi, Dawn.
Hey, how are you?
How are you? I'm so sorry about that. My last guest was in the education field, and of course he went on and on and on, and I'm like, excuse me? I tried to keep my interviews short, but I'm like, yeah. That's the day of the full-time podcast, and now I have to admit to you that I haven't listened to your podcast, but I am pretty well versed in this subject we're going to talk about today.
Okay.
So, what is going, only because I lost my mom. That's only why I'm well versed in this subject. So what I'm going to do is introduce the show, introduce you, let you give a brief synopsis of who you are, why you're doing this, and then I'm going to ask baseline questions all along the way, and I may throw a couple curveballs in there just to make this podcast a happy podcast, not a sad podcast, even though the subject we're talking about needs to be spoken about.
Right. That sounds good.
So
That's
let's
fine.
do this.
Okay.
Let's do this.
I am ready whenever you are.